In this class, we will understand one of the very important and very frequently used input function in C programming language, which is scanf. So far in our previous classes, we have discussed the concept of output function, which is printf function used to display the content onto the screen. Now, what is the use of input function? So whenever we use an input function in our program, we are letting the user to provide inputs to your program, and those inputs is used by your program and it will get processed and the output will get generated. So far in our previous examples, all the inputs, all the values of the variables are directly provided within the program. So we haven't seen any of the programming examples so far where the user will provide the inputs to the program. We haven't seen any such kind of examples, any such kind of facility in our programming language. Now in this video, we will master that concept of scanf function. So we'll try to understand this concept in detail by using this example. So this example will make you understand the concept in detail. So we will try to understand line by line, and we will see what happens on the memory also. By the execution of each line of code, what happens on the memory, that also we will understand. So in this line of code, the first line of code, int a, b, c. So we have provided three variables and those variables are of type integers. Now what happens on the memory? On the memory, the memory will be allocated for each and every variable randomly. The compiler is going to allocate memory for a, b, c. Let's assume that a has been allocated this space, these 4 bytes of space has been allocated for A, and these 4 bytes will be allocated for B, and these 4 bytes will be allocated for C. Let's assume. Okay. Now the next line of code is enter two integers A and B. Now why we are using this statement? This statement allows the user to understand, the user of the program to understand that in the next line of code, after using this, the user will understand that I have to provide two variables, two values which are integers. Okay, this statement is helping the user to make him understand that what kind of inputs are to be given. Now what happens is scanf will get executed. Whenever a scanf executes, what happens? So this is very important to understand. Whenever a scanf function is getting executed, your computer will halt. Means it will wait for the user to provide the inputs. So how he can provide the input? By using keyboard. And what kind of inputs are to be provided? So he has to provide two integers. So try to understand this. So the printf is used for output function. The scanf is used to take the inputs. We should not provide any text in the input function. If you provide text, that is going to provide serious consequences. So you are going to get different behavior if you provide text within the scanf. Try to understand this. Once again, the output function printf is used to provide the output. So this is the printf which clarifies the user what kind of inputs are to be provided. Now after executing this printf statement, your compiler, your computer will wait for you until you give both these inputs. So both these inputs, until you give both these inputs, your compiler, your cursor will blink and it will wait for the user to provide the inputs. Try to understand this. Okay, we will see practically in our examples how the computer will wait. Okay, at this point of time, make a note of it. So here we are having two format specifiers. What does these format specifiers mentions? So these are the placeholders, means we are expecting two variables to be provided by the user. So this scanf function is expecting two variables to be scanned from the keyboard, which is an input device. Okay, and here in the place of variables, where those variables are to be stored. So with those variables, we have provided an ampersand symbol, which is not there in the printf function. But we have to use these ampersand symbols in the scanf function. What does this mean? So see here, for example, here we are having a variable, a placeholder for variable, and we have given C, but we haven't given ampersand symbol. Now what is the use of this ampersand symbol? Ampersand symbol is an address of operator. Address of operator. What does that mean is, this is the address where, this is the place where the value of A has to be stored. Now, here you may get a simple doubt that here 4 bytes is allocated for A. Which address has to be, which address is provided? Always the starting address of a variable will be provided. What is the starting address of A? It is 4. Now from 4, the compiler knows that how many bits or how many bytes are allocated for A. Let's assume that it is 4 bytes. Means starting from 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. These 4 bytes are allocated for A. That calculation will be made by compiler. Means whenever ampersand A is used, we are going to get the starting address of that variable. Try to understand this. See here, ampersand A and ampersand B means the address of A and the address of B. Means what is the address of A? It is 4 in this case. So it is going to change from execution to execution. And what is the address of B? Means the starting address of B, which is 9. So this is the address of B is 9. Means whatever the values that are provided by the users, those values, 2 values are provided, those values will get stored in this address location 4, means 4, 5, 6, 7. And whatever the other variable which is provided, the value which is provided by the user, that variable's value will get stored in this address starting from 9, 9, 10, 11, 12. These 4 bytes will get occupied by this variable. So try to understand this. This point is very important. Okay. Now let's assume that the user has given a value 10 and a value 5. And how the compiler is going to differentiate a value of one variable with another variable? It is by using space. One single space, multiple spaces, or enter does not make any difference. The compiler will consider all those spaces into one single space. Okay. Okay. So now the 10 will be assigned to A and the value of 5 will get assigned to B. After giving these 2 inputs, the user has to press enter. So once the enter is pressed means we are giving the programmer, the program a signal that the next line of code can be executed. See, in this line of code, your compiler will wait, your computer will wait for you to give the inputs. Wait for the user to give the inputs. Okay. Now this line will get executed. The next line is this line. Now executing this line means the value of 10. So 10 plus 5, which is going to produce an outcome of 15, and that will get stored in the variable C. The last line is simple printf statement. So the sum of A and B is, it is going to print 15. So this statement will get printed. Okay. So that is all about the scanf function. So the very important point that you need to remember is scanf or the input function is used for the user to provide inputs. How he is going to provide the inputs? By using keyboard. And every time a scanf line comes in your programming, the computer is going to wait for the user to provide the required inputs. So how many variables are required? So that will be known by this pre-defined some statements, some useful, these helpful statements, printf statements will help the user to provide the required inputs. Okay. So this is all about scanf function. So hope you got the clarity on this concept. We will see you in the next class.